Now, there are certain bands over the years that have made what I call a behind the curtain impact. And what I mean by that is basically they made an impact bigger than we probably realized. One of the bands that did that is the band Fuel. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back, music lovers, especially my rock music lovers. That's right. Welcome back to another one. Please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, that is something that is absolutely huge. It will help this channel grow. It'll help me grow. And, well, besides here to entertain you, that's another reason I'm here. Anything you do in life, you want to grow, right? So please, subscribe to the channel. Now, for this story, we're going to have to start, well, at the beginning. The beginning being a western Tennessee town called Kenton, where friends Carl Bell and Jeff Abercrombie, well, they did what they love to do. And that was, they played music together. Now, when Bell and Abercrombie started playing together, they were both in junior high. Bell, a few years older, would be the first to go off to college. And when he did so, he went off and met drummer Jody Abbott, and they started jamming together. And they actually formed a band called Wanted, started playing together with two other classmates. Now, when Bell returned home from college, he hooked back up with Abercrombie. Now, the two started playing together. They even added Abbott into the mix, so it was the three of them. And, well, they started playing the local club scene, and I'll be honest with you, does that sound familiar, the local club scene? I mean, that's like a rite of passage for any band. You gotta start somewhere, and it seems like that's the beginning of almost every story, right? But nonetheless, that's what they were doing, mostly doing cover songs. But the fact they were doing this local club scene, well, it brought on a reality. The reality being that Abercrombie ended up seeing a man named Brett Scallions, who was a guitarist vocalist, in 1992, and he saw him performing while they were in Jackson, Tennessee. So Bell, Abercrombie, and Abbott were going by the name Reel to Reel. That was the name of the band. I'm gonna put the spelling right here so you know exactly what it is. Now, 1993, they brought Brett Scallions into the band along with a keyboardist. Now, this would actually be the first iteration of the band that would later be called Fuel. Now, this same year, the guys would move out to Pennsylvania to continue pursuing that dream, and they were still going by the name Reel to Reel. But it wouldn't take long before they would change their name to Small the Joy, and the band would drop their first EP in 1994. Now, not long after that, they started rattling around some name changes, but nothing ever stuck. Now, they ended up releasing their second EP in 1996. The name of that EP was Porcelain, and, well, that would bring on another name change, and it would be their final name change, because that was when they would finally settle on the name Fuel. Now, this EP, Porcelain, actually did pretty damn good locally, and it actually garnered a radio hit. And the song's going to sound familiar, and the song was Shimmer. It was played all over the radio, and it helped grow the fan base and garnered a lot of attention. It even garnered Sony's attention. Their label 550 Imprint signed the guys, and they were responsible for releasing their third EP, Hazelton, in 1998. Now, with Fuel no doubt on the rise, they ended up signing with Epic Records and got in the studio with music producer Steven Hagler. Now, they had to use a session drummer, Jonathan Mover, for this because Jody Abbott was out of the band after the band's last recording. Now, in 1998, the band finally released their first full-length studio album, Sunburn. And their first single was a re-recorded version of their hit song, Shimmer. Now, to me, Shimmer is an awesome, awesome song. I still go back and listen to it from time to time. I absolutely love the song. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Fuel fan, but I respect them, and I do love this song. Now, this song ended up hitting number 2 on the mainstream rock chart. It ended up topping out at number 37 on the adult top 40, and even hit number 42 on the Billboard Hot 100. This album garnered 3 other singles that all got radio airplay: the song Bittersweet, Jesus Oregon, and the title track Sunburn. Now, no doubt, Shimmer was the most popular song off this album, but songs like Sunburn got featured on, well, big screen movies like Scream 3, and I remember Scream 3 coming out. It was very highly anticipated because, if you ask me, sequels don't always live up to the first. Now, movies like Terminator 2, I think they topped the first, like, completely. But most of the time, a sequel just usually takes a step down. I think Scream 3 was great. The first 3 were awesome. Everything after that, not a big fan of. But they even, recorded and contributed to the movie Godzilla that came out in 1998, the song Walk the Sky. And to me, that's my favorite Godzilla. I mean, I absolutely love that movie. That's my favorite Godzilla movie. And I remember all the Taco Bell commercials, the little chihuahua from Taco Bell, all the "here, lizard, lizard, lizard." I mean, man, that takes me back. I still go back and watch those commercials just for the hell of it sometimes. But yeah, no doubt, Fuel hit a home run with Sunburn, for sure. Now, Fuel would continue to tour the year after the release of this album, and they would yet again bring on a new drummer, a guy named Kevin Miller, and he would continue to play with the band. He actually played with a smaller band called the Armadillos before joining Fuel. Now, as far as Sunburn, I mean, this album ended up getting certified gold and eventually would be certified platinum. So not a bad job for your debut album, I must say. Now the year 2000 would see Fuel drop their second studio album, Something Like Human. Now this was a good album, but the lead single was absolutely amazing. This lead single spent 12 weeks at #1 on the modern rock charts that year. It was the song Hemorrhage in My Hands. Most people know it as In My Hands, but the actual name of the song was Hemorrhage. And if you're a rock fan and you see a band stay at #1 for that long, you got to take notice, you know. And not only that, this song would end up on Billboard's list of top songs of the decade. It would chart in at #5 for the decade. I mean, come on, think about that. For an entire decade, being in the top 10 or 20 would be amazing. Your #5 is absolutely amazing. And this album by 2001 was already certified double platinum. So before we continue, I have to tell a story. I absolutely have to tell this story as it pertains to the song In My Hands. Now, think about this. This album, Something Like Human, was released in September of 2000. A few months before that, I lost my uncle to suicide. This guy was awesome. Absolutely awesome guy. So out of there, man. I mean, and my memories of him are fond, and they're all good. You know, a lot of what I know about him have been stories from other people as I was a young child when he did this. But the thing is, you know, suicide, and it's always unexpected. Most of the time it's unexpected, right? You don't expect nobody to do that. No matter how bad things get, that's the last thing you think they're actually going to do, even though you know it's always a possibility, because you never really know what's going through somebody's mind, what they're capable of. But I thought of this, because this song came out after he was gone, and I thought to myself, man, you know what? Not only is this a good song, but it's a song he'll never hear. He was a huge rock fan. And it's weird, but that's still what I think about when I hear that song. I'll sit there and zone out, and I'll think, you know, man, he never got to hear this song. And anybody that we lose and they're gone, anything after their death is something they'll never experience. And to this day, when I hear Hemorrhage in My Hands, I think of my uncle never being able to experience or hear that song. Crazy, right? Now in 2003, we would see Fuel drop their third studio album, Natural Selection. And this is when the band would start to slowly trend in the wrong direction. Now, their lead single off this album, Falls on Me, was actually a pretty damn good song, if you ask me. And it was played all over VH1, Fuse, MTV, MTV2, when MTV actually still played music. It was a great song. It hit 52 on the Billboard Hot 100. But the shitty part is, this would end up being Fuel's last song to ever hit that chart. Now, on February 7th of 2006, we would see Brett Scallions out as lead singer, frontman for the band Fuel. And this would just continue their downward trajectory. I mean, this band was going in the wrong direction, unfortunately. But this is one thing I do remember about that. American Idol was and still is a huge show, but back when it was, you know, Randy, Paula, Simon, you know, the first couple, 5-6 years, there was a cool show. There's 2 seasons I really remember, and I can't tell you the first season, for one, Kelly Clarkson winning, and then the season that had Daughtry on it. I think that year Taylor Hicks won, but the final 4, at least 2 of them, Catherine McPhee and Daughtry, went on to have bigger careers than anybody else in that show, and they didn't even win it. But Daughtry ended up doing a rendition of In My Hands on one of the episodes. And, you know, after Scallions was out of the band, Fuel actually reached out to Daughtry and wanted him to be the lead singer. Inevitably, he ended up declining, respectfully, because he wanted to start his solo band, which did just fine. But, you know, there was an opportunity there for him, and he's a hell of a singer. But, yeah, I very vividly remember that. I mean, because that was the last season of American Idol that I think, personally, was a great season. You still had the original judges. That was a hell of a group of people that could sing their ass off. That was a good season. And, yeah, the fact that Daughtry declined, I was a bit surprised. But, hey, we all know what we want to do in life. We shouldn't let nothing steer us in another direction if we don't think it feels right. Now, 2007 is when Fuel released their 4th studio album, Angels and Devils. And this, well, I'll be honest with you. It had 2 singles that did hit some charts, Gone and Wasted Time. But I'll tell you right now, it was not old Fuel. They had a new lead singer. It just, to me, it wasn't that good, in my opinion. Now, this is what tells you that, well, it tells you one of 2 things. Immediately after that, their next album, it was a very best of Fuel album. So usually when somebody releases a greatest hits or a very best of, it could go both ways. Sometimes you have great bands that it's just time to release the greatest hits. I mean, you're not working on a new album. You've done so many great things. What else can you do? Okay, a greatest hits. The fans will love it. But a band like Fuel in the position they were in, that tells me that their label was saying, well, this didn't go well. Let's at least release this album because we know some of their old stuff will garner attention and the album will sell. I think that's where their mind was on that one. But for the next few years for Fuel, there would be a lot of lineup changes and not a lot of success. I mean, there was just not a lot of buzz around the band anymore. That would continue all the way until April 8th of 2010, which was my 22nd birthday, when a press release came out announcing that Scallions was back as lead man of Fuel. But it would be with an entirely different lineup behind him. I mean, you talk about a complete 180. I mean, literally, you go from Scallions being out of the band to coming back, and they switch all the other guys out. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. I don't know all the details behind it. I'm sure there's stuff they didn't tell people. If you dive deep or you get the right story, I'm sure we could find out more. But man, that blows your mind that this guy came back and they literally put him front and center with a whole new lineup. Just completely insane. So Fuel would release 2 more albums after this huge change. 2014, they dropped the album Puppet Strings, and in 2021, they dropped the album Anomaly. Neither one of those I can say is all that great, in my opinion. And there might be some people out there that love some of the songs off them album. I listened to both of them. There's some songs I tried to gravitate to, but in the end, it wasn't nothing special because in my mind, I'm thinking of Fuel, early 2000s, which is the band's heyday. That was when they had their most success. That's when they did all their good stuff, in my opinion. And obviously, when you're a band, you know, and things are going bad, you want to get back to those glory days if you ever had them. And for Fuel, they tried. I mean, a lot of negative things happened, a lot of shakeups, but in the end, they could just never capture that success. But that success that they did have, again, I go back to what I said before, behind the curtain band success. That's exactly what Fuel early 2000s was. They had some good stuff, some great songs, some iconic songs, and some songs that people know. If it comes on the radio, you know it. And you can never take that away from them. I mean, you talk about one-hit wonders. Shit, how many hits do you got? I'll tell you how many I got. 0. So even one hit that hits mainstream and makes an impact on society, when I say society, I mean pop culture society, that's good. That's great. That's something you can always hang your hat on. And Fuel has quite a few of those in their early years. But unfortunately, you know, when they hit that slope, they just couldn't stop themselves. But hey, you got to give them respect. And I absolutely give them respect for their early stuff. And like I said, they did have a heyday. And it was a pretty damn good one. But anyway, you know, go out there. Take care of your friends, your family. Do something amazing. Go for something and go hard at it. Don't let nothing steer you in the wrong direction. And don't let people tell you what you should do. You know what you need to do. And you know what feels right in here. And that's what you always got to do. Don't let nobody steer you in another direction. Until then, take care of yourself. I'm out.